Hello, reporter room investigators. Hello, come on in, come on in. How are you today? Today, we're going to be talking about the Sebastian Rogers case. We've got a lot of stuff to cover. Um, I want to talk about the fact that if we can understand why this happened, then we can understand who. I've been going back over a lot of the old interviews that were done by the parents. I do think it's interesting that and going through Katie's old interviews, um, I can see that she has changed her story multiple times. We're going to talk about that, some of the discrepancies, but we're going to start off talking about uh, the why. And I believe I know what the motive is in this case. And this is just my theory, but this is what I believe. And I'm interested to get your input as well. So, thank you to all of our subscribers, our channel members, and our mods, and head mod and jazz. So, what are the issues if Sebastian is not found well and healthy? And I'm, starting to, get a little bit worried, as a lot of you guys are, that, we may not have a positive outcome on this case. Maybe we still will, but we may not. I brought you the remains found in Cumberland near the entrance to Mount Roosevelt, which is a wooded area, which would be a very good place for somebody to drop something off. We haven't heard anything about who this might be, but I brought it to you because it is around 2.5 hours from where Sebastian lives. But nothing has been released about that yet, so I have been checking daily. So I think that hopefully this is not Sebastian, and Sebastian is found safe and well. This is what all of us want. As I shared with you in the last video, I think it's unlikely, not impossible, but unlikely that Sebastian walked out the front door on his own. I just can't get past the fact that he didn't have shoes on. And in light of the fact that Seth has shared with us that he wouldn't like to go outside without shoes on because of a fire ant incident, and just knowing that people with autism like to have routines, they like things done a certain way, they're very sensitive to textures. I think it's unlikely that he would have broken his routine willingly. So either there was some kind of an altercation and he ran out the door and wasn't intending to leave, and the door locked behind him or got locked behind him. But I want to talk about one of the most likely motives. And this is, I think, the real reason that Sebastian had to disappear. And then we're going to dig into Katie's 3 versions of the night that Sebastian disappeared. So come on in and join me, and let's get started. My name is Jessica Della Davies. I'm an investigative journalist, and my job is to investigate crimes, crime scenes, and potential suspects, and share with you how to do the same thing. If you have not subscribed to Reporter Room, please do. Like, share, leave a comment, and let's get started. So come on into the Top Shot. I do want to talk to you. Hi, Njaz. This is our head mod, Njaz. This is Brother Mike. Brother Mike, if you're willing, I would love to make you a head mod as well. Let me know if you are able to do that. But I would definitely like to. Yeah, I started just a couple minutes early because I have a lot of stuff to dig into. So after covering multiple true crime cases, including the Summer Wells case, who also disappeared in the state of Tennessee and has never been recovered, I've come to the conclusion that parents are capable of terrible things. We watched the Megan Boswell trial. A lot of us did. We've seen Lori Vallow Daybell, and seemingly nice people are capable of doing terrible things. Now, I'm not accusing anyone. And again, this is all alleged. This is just my opinion. But I do want to talk about this case because I think narcissism helps us to understand why. And I'm going to let's dig into this a little bit. So I'm not using narcissist and narcissism as a diagnosis. I'm not a psychologist. I am using them as an adjective. So I think if someone is a child of somebody with that has narcissistic tendencies, they are going to be the most vulnerable to having something happen to them, to either neglect or worse. And I'm watching my words here. And this is a G-rated show. So I think that, Sebastian being special needs and having autism and having a chromosomal deletion issue, that he was completely dependent on Katie, his mother, Chris, his stepfather, and Seth, his biological father, for his emotional well-being as well as his physical well-being. He would have looked to them, especially coming into his teen years as a teenager with autism, to help him figure out who he was. And I believe that Sebastian would have made an easy target for somebody who was narcissistic and looking for a scapegoat. So let me just explain. We know that CPS was called out to the house. We know this from Seth Rogers. I've heard anywhere from 2 to 5 times. To me, more than one or even one is a red flag. So I do feel a certain kind of way about Chris Proudfoot and the way that he behaves when he's not getting his way. I think when he is challenged, he lashes out. We've seen him interrupt and interject himself in multiple interviews, talking instead of Katie. We've also seen how Katie looks at him for approval, and the words coercive control have been thrown around in this case by numerous content creators. Sorry, I'm nervous to go into this, but I just feel like I need to. I need to get this off my chest. So we're going to go through the issues of Katie's multiple versions and what I think this means. But I want to talk, and so we're going to do that in a few minutes, but I want to dig into this a little bit. I want to take a good look at Chris Proudfoot. Now, he admitted to using uh, a belt in relation, I'm watching my words, with Sebastian, and then denied it. So there are some credibility issues. He claimed he did a lie detector. It turns out that wasn't true either. And we're making big lies here in the case of a missing child. I've also shared with you that I think this is just my opinion, allegedly. So I don't want to get myself into any legal trouble, but I do feel like if we can understand why, we can understand who. So why? We know that Chris Proudfoot wanted to get custody of Faith. And I believe he scapegoated Sebastian for his inability to get custody of Faith, rather than taking accountability for his own behavior. We saw this in the Gabby Petito case with Bryan Laundrie, who even in his last note that he left refused to take accountability. And I believe that he was also displayed classic narcissistic tendencies. We know that Chris blamed Sebastian for not being able to get custody of Faith. Let that sink in. Are you watching closely? I think Sebastian made an easy target, an easy scapegoat. And I don't think that Katie defended him at all. I think it was easier for Chris Proudfoot, in my opinion, allegedly, to blame Sebastian for his inability to get custody of Faith rather than to look at his own behaviors. Now, the judge that decided that Nina was going to maintain primary custody of Faith was not fooled by Chris Proudfoot and his willingness to blame other people. And I don't think we should be either. I don't think Katie defended Sebastian. I think that she either chimed in or remained silent. And the reason I believe this is if CPS got called out to your house, I don't hear anything from Katie that she, is in defense of Sebastian. There's not one word to defend this special needs autistic teenager, even though he's missing. So I think he was the scapegoat in the Proudfoot household. And this just absolutely breaks my heart. So even if Sebastian did leave on his own, I think he could have maybe run out the door in either frustration or fear when he heard, Chris Proudfoot and Katie Proudfoot talking about giving custody from their house to Seth. This would have been really stressful for a autistic teenager who needed routines. And it would have meant that he would have been pulled out of the school where the teachers were defending him, were advocating for him in their multiple calls, allegedly, reportedly, to CPS. So I think that moving to Seth's would have been extremely stressful for Sebastian. It would have meant a change of routine. And this would be the only reason that I would think that he would have left on his own. But I still think he would have grabbed a pair of shoes. So we're going to talk about that thud. I feel like that's significant. But Sebastian, if he had gone with Seth, Seth was planning to homeschool him. So it meant he would not have had access to his teachers. And obviously he felt like that these were people that he could talk to safely, that he could say what's happening to him. And Chris has admitted it. Chris Proudfoot has admitted it. So step parents are disproportionately involved in doing, I'm going to watch my words here, bad things to their partner's children. And Sebastian had autism. So, and I believe this step parent allegedly has some narcissistic tendencies. And Nina Gomez tells us in her own words that Chris she didn't feel like treated her children well. So let that sink in. So let's talk about narcissism, Sebastian and his special needs, and how that would have reflected on Chris Proudfoot. Chris Proudfoot's point of view, Sebastian would not have made him look good. Sebastian was not going to be throwing the winning touchdown at a football game. He wasn't going to be winning the, school debate team. So, I think a lot of things that we know about narcissists is how well does my family reflect on me? How does this teenager or little person make me look good? And I believe my own eyes and ears that Chris does display narcissistic tendencies. He is domineering. He is bellicose. He's a bully when he's not getting his way. And in listening to Chris Proudfoot's own words, this is all my opinion, allegedly, I believe that he blamed Sebastian for his not being able to get Faith. I believe that he blamed Sebastian for his troubles in his marriage with Katie Proudfoot. So rather than Chris Proudfoot addressing his own culpability and his awful behavior toward Nina Gomez, remember, he kidnapped, allegedly, Faith too. He did not have custody of Faith. And when Nina went to check on another sick child of hers and had to go out of town, he disappeared with Faith. She couldn't get her back. She had to go to court. Big red flags. So to a narcissist, it can never be their fault. We saw this in the Chris Watts case, right? I believe that Bella and Cece and Shanann were all okay for him as long as they made him look good. But when NK came along and started talking about that the financial troubles must be all Shanann's fault, and I'm not saying she didn't have some role in it, but it's never only one person's fault when a couple has financial problems. And it's certainly not going to be the little one's fault. So in Chris Watts' mind, it couldn't be his fault. And he wanted to be with Nicole Kessinger, and his family was disposable in his eyes. And with Chris Proudfoot, I feel like Sebastian, what happened to him, what happened with Faith and what was going on between Chris Proudfoot and Katie Proudfoot with their marriage. And we know that this is one of the reasons that he allegedly wanted Seth to take Sebastian, was that he and Katie were having marriage problems. And I believe that Chris Proudfoot, and maybe Katie Proudfoot too, were both scapegoating Sebastian. It just breaks my heart. What do you guys think? Are you watching closely? So narcissists lack empathy. They don't feel compassion for other people. We saw this in the Lori Vallow Daybell case. JJ Vallow was also autistic, and her brother, she allowed her creepy brother Alex, allegedly, to take JJ out of the house and disappear him. And then he was later found buried in Chad Daybell's backyard. Lori Vallow Daybell was also able to convince law enforcement that she was the sane one, because remember, Charles Vallow raised the alarm. He sounded the alarm that he was worried about the kids and that he was worried about Lori. And she went down to the police station with Tylee, and she made it sound like Charles Vallow was crazy. And then he was done away with also. by Lori Vallow's brother. I do believe Lori Vallow is also a classic narcissistic person. She and Chad Daybell were rating people on their light levels and their dark levels. She was convinced she was one of the chosen one. I'm just so special. Um, and and so it was just on how well people around her reflected on her. And she would have loved the mirror that Chad Daybell held up to her, saying that she and he were the two chosen ones. So I'm going to go through Katie's issues and her multiple stories about how Sebastian disappeared and why that's setting off alarm bells in just a second. So please stay with me. So seemingly nice people can do terrible things. So let's go. Alex Murdaugh is another one, right? Alex Murdaugh is another example because he was convicted of doing away with Maggie and Paul, his wife and his son. Now, he was just facing financial crimes. There was no capital punishment on the table for him. It was just financial crimes. But he was willing to do away with his own wife and son to get a little bit of time and to get sympathy for himself, his narcissistic supply, and to keep from being held accountable for his financial crimes. And again, I'm just using narcissism as an adjective. So he was able to do away with his wife and son as soon as they didn't serve his personal interest. In fact, it benefited him to do away with them. This way he could get more sympathy for himself. He could maybe not have his law firm coming at him so hard for his, financial crimes. And I think he did away with Maggie and Paul just to deflect. I think Lori Vallow did away with JJ and Ty Lee just to feel superior, to feel more special. I think Brian Laundrie did away with Gabby because he didn't want to be accountable for whatever he did to her that day. His note gives us some clues. He talks about a bruise getting bigger on her head. We don't have to take a wild guess to figure out how that got there because we know what happened to Gabby. And I'm going to be covering the Netflix series on that starting tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern time. But instead of calling 911 for Gabby, like most normal people would do, he protected himself. He did what was best for himself in his eyes and did away with her. So people can do terrible things to people that they allegedly love. And I believe that Chris Proudfoot did not love Sebastian. I believe that he would have been angry with Sebastian for being the reason that CPS was being called out to their house, and that Chris Proudfoot would have been very worried about himself and how his neighbors were perceiving him, but also himself in regards to getting custody of Faith. It couldn't be because Chris Proudfoot kidnapped Faith and absolutely did the wrong thing in that situation. Didn't go through the courts. Just took the law into his own hands. So in Chris's mind, in my opinion, it had to be Sebastian's fault. And that Sebastian was the reason that Chris could not get custody of Faith. So I want to talk about Katie Proudfoot and her ever-changing versions of what happened to Sebastian. This has raised alarms with statement analysts and with criminal profiler Pat Brown. And so we're going to talk about that. Let me just say hello to chat. Come on in, guys. Let me just say a quick hello. Drop your questions. I do want to hear what you guys think about this. Let me go back up. I'm just trying to scroll back. I'm like way behind on chat. Okay, so Leslie, hi. Come on in, you guys. We have a lot of stuff to talk about. This is our head mod. Thank you to all of our mods that came in today, to our channel members and to our subscribers. Please give this a thumbs up. Let YouTube know that this is a safe G-rated show. If you have little ones in the room, I'm not going to use any negative bad words other than narcissist. But there's, anyway, welcome Maria. And Cindy said, I think the stepdad gave Katie an ultimatum to get rid of Sebastian or I'm gone. He didn't want to raise Sebastian. He was cruel to him. Just look at the step monster's past. Right. Exactly. That's what I'm doing. And that's why I wanted to say, if we can understand why, we can understand who. Now, I'm not saying that Chris did anything to Sebastian. It could have just been Sebastian overheard Chris and Katie talking negatively, or Chris was, but I do believe that Chris was exerting some coercive control with Katie. I do think that he was doing that. I think that, Katie chose Chris over Sebastian repeatedly. Hey, CJK. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Joe said he stayed within a safety zone. And Cindy says, it didn't seem like either one of the parents wanted to deal with him. Poor little guy. Yeah. I feel like he was, scapegoated and picked on and blamed I believe that Chris, rather than taking accountability for his own failings, it's Chris's fault that he couldn't get custody of Faith. He didn't get custody of Faith, in my opinion, for a couple of reasons. One, that while Nina was pregnant, he tried to use coercive control to manipulate her into ending the pregnancy. That's evil, in my opinion. That's evil. That's evil. She wanted to have Faith. So she had to go live with her parents so she could continue and have the pregnancy. And he didn't show up till after Faith was born. He pulled the disappearing act. He pulled his financial support, his emotional support, his physical support were all pulled. The rug was completely pulled out from underneath Nina Gomez. And then after Faith was born, being the entitled and, entitled and self-centered and in my opinion, narcissistic, he decided that he was entitled to have Faith anyway. So when Nina's other child became ill and she had to go out of town to tend to her, Chris and his family are like, and the Bowersox are like, yeah, we'll take care of Faith, no problem. And then she shows up when she goes home. Somebody's supposed to bring her Faith. Nobody brings her. When she goes to the Bowersox house, and Chris was reportedly there, they refuse to hand over Faith, and she has to go to court to get her baby. Her baby. Can you imagine? Are you a mother or a father? Can you imagine doing this to your partner or having this done to you by a partner? I mean, he wasn't even around for the whole pregnancy. There wouldn't have been a Faith if Chris would have had his way. But he feels like he's entitled to just take Faith. That's why he doesn't have Faith, because of his behavior and the way that he disciplined Nina's children, according to what Nina told us, and the way that he disciplined Sebastian. I'm sorry. We established on the last live stream, I asked to put a 1 in the chat if you thought it was normal for CPS to come out to your house, and that CPS had been out to your house more than once. Put a 2 in the chat if you thought it was abnormal and that CPS hadn't been out to your house. I mean, it's not normal for CPS to come out to somebody's house multiple times. And I believe that instead of looking at his own behavior, that maybe it's not appropriate to use a belt on somebody with special needs. I believe that instead of looking at his own behavior, instead he pushed the reason that he wasn't getting Faith and the reason he and Katie were having problems in their marriage isn't because Chris has been married. I think what is Katie, his 4th wife, his 5th wife? I don't even know. But, the marriages are disposable to him. One after the other, completely disposable. And I think Sebastian was disposable to him, allegedly, in my opinion. I'm not saying he did anything to Sebastian, but I do think that Sebastian took the blame for the reason that Chris Proudfoot was having trouble with Katie Proudfoot, and that Sebastian was blamed for the reason that they couldn't have Faith. And I don't think Katie supported Sebastian or stood up for him one little bit. One little bit. CJK says, when he first went missing, some made him sound very needy, for lack of a better word. He's very smart and capable from what I've heard and seen. Yep. Diane says, the louder Chris Proudfoot gets, the closer we should look at what he's hollering about. Exactly. Exactly. I mean, I've had people say, don't the lights video, it's not real level. I'm sorry, I believe my own eyes. I'm going to believe my own eyes when in my own ears when it comes to Chris and Katie Proudfoot too. And I'm going to talk about why I do not believe Katie Proudfoot either in just a second. So please stay with me. Yeah, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. Meme says Katie and Chris Proudfoot are suspicious to her. Cindy says nobody seems to want to raise the poor boy. Even his real dad knew that his son wasn't happy living with his mom and stepfather. Right, and they had plans. According to Seth, he was going to take him that summer. But see, just because Seth was happy with it doesn't mean that Sebastian was. And I don't think Sebastian was. I think he was worried about going to live with Seth because it would have meant change for him. And just like I don't think Sebastian would have left willingly on his own to permanently run away without shoes on, I don't think that he would have wanted to change and be homeschooled instead of going to school, because I think school was a safety net for Sebastian. I think it was a safe place for him to be. Thank you. Thank you to all of our mods. Hey, hi, Sharon. Okay. CJK says many use, yeah, to spank. I don't agree with that. I was yeah, as a kid. There are better ways. Yeah, there's a lot better ways. And especially when you're the step parent and this child had to wear, didn't he wear like a body thing to protect him? That, I'm sorry. No, you don't put your hands on somebody that has a chromosome deletion problem, that has autism, and has to wear something to protect their body. Mm-mm. Leslie said Chris Proudfoot blames Sebastian for everything. He didn't want to raise him. No, I don't think he did. And I think he went, but it wasn't just that, because he could have just done that and be done with it. I think it was more than that. I think Sebastian was blamed. And I do think that the date that Sebastian disappeared, February 26th, which is the date that Katie and Seth, that's the date their divorce papers were signed. I think that date is significant. I think that date was chosen. I don't think it's a coincidence. It would be a 1 in 365 day chance to pick that exact date for Sebastian to disappear. And we've all seen the video footage of Katie looking around while she's at the Texas Roadhouse. Cindy says, you certainly don't use, that's right. You don't need to use anything. You could just do a timeout. Oh, yeah, I heard that too. Allegedly, it's alleged, but yeah, I've heard that too. We're talking today about Chris Proudfoot and the CPS cases. And I'm not sure about Seth. You'll have to give me a link to what your sourcing is on that. But if there is, we can talk about that also. But I want to talk about who had custody of Sebastian when he disappeared. He wasn't with Seth. So Seth was working at the prison where he worked as a law enforcement officer, and he was on camera. He would have been on camera going into the prison. He would have been on camera in the prison, and he would have been on camera leaving the prison. So I just don't see him as being the most likely person to have done this. Now, this could be somebody nefarious that just picked out Sebastian. I'm not saying that can't be true. It's just in my mind, I think this is a criminal case, and I think it's interesting that Katie has been silent. She's gone silent. Lisa says Seth has had reports on him to stop thinking. I didn't say he was the best. Did I say that? I didn't say that. I've never said that. But he wasn't the last one to see Sebastian. Sebastian didn't disappear from inside his house. If he did, I would be taking a good long look. I also don't see where there was a motive to do anything to Sebastian. Tell me what the motive would be. He was going to get custody of him. So what would the motive be? CJK says, does anyone know why all three parents were looking into a special school for Sebastian? If he could go to Seth's, then why send him away to a school? I don't know. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Mike. Maria says, in my opinion, I don't think Sebastian ran away. I think he was carried out, in my opinion. No shoes, no scent. It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, for those of you that are thinking it's impossible, we've seen this before. Lori Vallow let her brother Alex carry JJ out. He had autism too. He was allowed to carry JJ out, and that was the last time that JJ was seen alive. And we know what happened to JJ and Tylee. They were found buried in a pet cemetery at Chad Daybell's house. Thank you, Victoria. Oh, and I've had other live streams where I've talked about Seth. But today, this is not what we're talking about today. Cindy said, I truly don't believe, even if his real dad wanted to take on the responsibility for his own son. Otherwise, why not just take him already instead of making excuses for it? Well, they were waiting for school to be out. That was my understanding. But I don't think Sebastian wanted to go with Seth either. And, I've gone through reasons on that in past videos. But that's not what we're talking about today. But you're welcome to share your comments. You're welcome to still share your thoughts. Thank you so much. Keep up the chatter. So I want to talk about Katie's ever-changing story. Cindy says, yeah, Katie cared so much she left on vacation. I mean, so many red flags, right? When you have a missing teenager and law enforcement tells you not to search, to stay put, do you really just say, I need to accompany my husband to work if you think he's coming back? If you want him to come back? Wouldn't you get on camera and beg for your child? They waited 8 days to get on camera. And then when they did, it was so sketchy that it drew the attention of Peter Hyatt, who's a renowned statement analyst, and Steve Johnson, another renowned statement analyst, both of whom train law enforcement. Hey, Veronica. Lisa says she did not leave on vacation. They were getting major threats. She didn't want to stay there alone. Chris had to go to work. People have bills. Yeah, I agree. He had bills, but law enforcement told her what? Did they tell her to go? You can't find somebody to come stay with you if you're worried about that. You can't find somebody to come and stay with you. You can't. She sold a security systems, but she can't put one in her own house. If she's really worried about that, let me tell you something. Let me ask the moms out there and the dads. If this was your missing special needs autistic teenager and law enforcement told you to stay home instead of in case he came home, would you leave that house to accompany Chris Proudfoot, who is perfectly capable of going to work by himself? And there were family members of Chris Proudfoot in town. The Bowersox were there. She had family members that could have come and stayed with her. Nobody was saying she had to be in the house alone or that she couldn't install a security system. But would wild horses have taken you out of that house if your child had gone missing? Would you have left? Would you have left? I just really want to know. Let me know. Would wild horses have dragged you out of that house? Because I just don't think that most parents would have left. Not that soon. Maybe after a year. Okay, after a year. Then, but not in the first few weeks. Nancy Grace asked that question for a reason. She knew the answer, in my opinion, before she asked Chris and Katie. And Katie was like, "Well, I need to accompany my husband." Again, so Sebastian was never, in my opinion, her top priority. She chose Chris every single time. Even when Sebastian was missing, she still chose Chris. Yeah, Dr. Dot. It keeps coming back. There's only one person that was the last person to see him, according to her. That's Katie. Yeah, it's not like Summer Wells. And you guys know what I think about that case too. And Lady Rosa says, and that's when the bite marks and scratches also occurred, I believe. Yeah, I showed you the video of the bite marks and scratches. I enhanced the footage because I thought, well, maybe somebody doctored it and put it online. I don't know who did it. So I enhanced it myself. And I showed you guys the scratches on Chris Proudfoot's arms. Yeah. And if he just walked out the door, Mike says, "Where is he?" Yeah, where is he? And Veronica says, and if the Bowersox helped Chris with Faith, also people would have listened to Nina's whole interview with Tyler Lee. That's right. So if they were willing to help with Faith with Chris, wouldn't they have stayed with Katie? For those of you that, Katie was so afraid she couldn't stay there alone. Chris Proudfoot was fine at work during the entire month of February. He said he never came home. So he was fine being gone at work without Katie there. And law enforcement told her to stay put, not to search in case Sebastian came home. But here's the other thing. She didn't leave the house to go search for Sebastian. No, she did not. She left the house to accompany her husband, who was perfectly capable of going to his job site on his own. She had the Bowersox in town that I'm sure if she felt scared, she could have had one of them or both of them come and stay with her. She didn't have to leave. Why'd she leave? Who leaves? Would you have left? Thank you. Yeah, the Nina Gomez interview did shed a lot of light onto Chris Proudfoot's character, and that needs to be taken into consideration. Jennifer Coffindaffer, a former FBI agent, said today during her live stream she thought it was criminal case. This case is a criminal case, in her opinion, her professional opinion. So why have no criminal charges been filed? Because they need Sebastian. So many red flags. I know. I agree. Bless said Chris and Katie spoke on the phone for 3 hours that night too. Right. And I shared with you how easy it would be. Just pretend this is my phone, right? Call, turn my TV on, place my phone next to my TV, take a drive. I believe my own eyes and ears. I believe my own eyes and ears on that lights video. People, I don't want to be like gaslit about the lights video anymore. I believe what I saw. And this is what I saw. I didn't see anybody carrying anything, but I see a light coming, which looks like a flashlight or some kind of a light coming from the street where the Proudfoots live on the night that Sebastian disappeared. Coming out, coming along. And then I'm seeing a car with taillights and headlights where all of a sudden it looks like the car is started. When the light comes into the frame, the car is started and the headlights get turned on. Yeah, he's a really good statement analyst. We're going to talk about Katie Proudfoot in just a second. We're going to talk about Katie. But yeah, I'm so tired of people just gaslighting me. Don't believe your own eyes and ears. Don't believe all of the red flags that you're seeing because, they seem so nice. We've seen this, and again, this is allegedly, this is just my opinion. I'm not accusing anybody of doing anything, but I do believe there are red flags that lead back to the two people that were living with Sebastian Rogers. And I don't see a motive. Seth was not perfect. He may have been a terrible father. I am not here to be the apologist for Seth Rogers. I'm not saying he is or he isn't. Whatever you want to think about Seth, that's up to you. I'm not telling you what to think. You can believe whatever you want to believe. If you think he was a good dad, that but he wasn't the last one to see Sebastian. And I don't see a motive of why he would want to he was getting custody of Sebastian. So what is the motive? I don't see a motive. And I saw of the three parents, there was one that went out and searched. Do I think he's perfect? No. Do I, I'm not here to be the Seth Rogers apologist, but I don't see a motive there either. People could be showing up and making threats, and I still wouldn't leave, says Lori. I wouldn't be able to leave either. Chris Proudfoot's job was up in the air, so he didn't know if he had a job still. Yeah, and he could have gone back and worked. I mean, he went to work according to him by himself for the whole month of February before Sebastian disappeared on the 26th. Veronica says everyone should watch that. I don't know. I missed that part. Sorry. Mama Bear says Seth said he cleared it up with Sebastian, that online schooling would not be permanent and he was moving in with him. Chris told him he should have had that conversation with him and Katie. Why? I don't know. Never. So then when I asked the question, would you leave the house a couple of weeks after your teenager disappeared, whether you thought they ran away or disappeared nefariously, would anything make you leave that house? And mind you, even if she was getting threats, she sold security systems, so they certainly had the money to install one. And the Bowersox were nearby, so she could have had family come and stay with her if she was worried. Never. I mean, I don't know any parent that wild horses. And why aren't these two out searching? Why weren't they at a single vigil? So thank searchers. Pepper says no, absolutely not. Dr. Dot says no way. Leslie says no, I would be staying put if Sebastian actually walked away on his own. The Jewel says I would be straight away to look for my baby. Yeah. I would have family members wait. I would have gone to find him. I find my baby. Same here. Because it wasn't like they didn't have family in town. Chris Proudfoot had family in town. That's why they lived in Hendersonville, right? Slim says, I was under the impression law enforcement would camp outside your house. Lori said she would never leave. Bless said, I would still be at the house. Here's our other head mod. This is 6 Cents Melia. She says, it's possible that Sebastian learned of information that upset him and he ran away. The issue is not that there's no evidence to point that way. Right. And I agree. That's very, very possible. I'm not saying that's not possible. But what I'm saying is I can't get past the fact that he wasn't picked up on a single security camera and that there were not any shoes, that he didn't put on shoes. When you know how important textures are to people who have autism, right? Mike said he would have stayed home. Holly says, no way, maybe to search, but someone would be at home. Exactly. I could see, but she didn't even go and help with, neither she or Chris Proudfoot helped to our knowledge. Can you tell me any time that they went out to search for Sebastian? Please tell me if I missed something, I'll be the first to say, but do you know of any instance that they ever went out to look for Sebastian? Did they ever come out and come to one of the prayer vigils and say thank you to all the people who were out looking? Reserved said she would not have looked. Mom Bear says because Sebastian would still be with us if Chris and Katie knew. Hey, Princess Elsa. Jody says wild horses couldn't keep me home or locomotive. CJK says, did someone stay behind at the house? I'd not have left unless I was certain. Not to my knowledge. But if I was going to leave, it would be to go look for him. It would be to go look for him. It wouldn't be to accompany my husband. Chris was working by himself through the whole month of February, according to them. He was gone. He wasn't even coming home on the weekends. That's another reason why I feel like there was a choice that was being asked. Coercive control? Maybe. The Midwest says no. At least one parent needs to stay at the house. Yeah, and there was two of them. There's Chris and Katie, and she worked from the house. There was no reason she couldn't have stayed home. Lady Rosa said no way. Dr. Dot says something awful happened in that house. CJK says too often women choose men over their children, and men do it as well. Yeah, we saw Chris Watts do it. For everybody, it's like, oh, it's not possible because they seem so nice. Chris Watts seemed nice too. You know, he seemed really nice. Everybody described him as nice. Lori Vallow seemed nice when she was down calling Charles, saying Charles Vella was a liar, when all he was trying to do was sound the alarm. Right? He was just sounding the alarm. He was worried about Lori and JJ and Tylee. And he, Lori went down and literally, told law enforcement that, I didn't do anything. He, just painted him out to be some controlling, weird guy. Oh, can somebody help Midwest here? Somebody hit the wrong button. Midwest didn't do anything. It was just an accident. Could somebody untime out? I don't know if we might have to just let it ride. I don't know if that's possible. Lady Rose said, I believe Sebastian fought hard to be held down by Chris Proudfoot. I don't know. Maureen says, no, I would not have left. And why didn't she have security cameras if she worked there? And if she's working for a security company? Right. And she could, if she was worried at that point, she could have installed them. If she was worried about, all these threats that were coming to her. I don't know. I haven't seen any evidence of that. But I believe there's kooky people out there. There's kooky people. So there could have been somebody. If she was really worried about that, why not install a security system and have the Bowersox come stay with her? Kara says they kept saying he walked out the door, but there was no scent at all. Yeah, and so could not have been true. They left because they were confident he would never be found because they know where he is. A lot of people feel like that. I don't know if I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm just saying, I'm so tired of being gaslit to not believe my own eyes and ears. We all saw the interview that Chris Proudfoot did with Trish from Web Sleuth Live, where PI Chloe was, asking him about the best day ever. What did Sebastian have the best day ever with Katie? Because that does seem like a lot of things to do. Bryan Laundrie, when he did what he did to Gabby, he said he had to do it. He was helping her. So instead of because she was hurt, the bruise on her head was bigger. She was too tired to walk anymore. So he had to do that. Like, what? Most people would call 911. But so rational people, it's hard for us to think that way. But you got to think like a narcissist in this situation, in my opinion. Mama Bear says the Proudfoots and the Bowersox and Proudfoots fled the jurisdiction of the crime scene when they left town. I don't know if they've all left town, but Katie should have stayed at the house, in my opinion. She didn't stay at the house. And we're going to talk about Katie and her 3 versions of her story. So why are all these professionals, if we're all wrong, and I'm not saying, Seth is perfect. I'm not here to be an apologist for Seth Rogers. But if we are all wrong about one person being a narcissistic personality type as an adjective, if we're all wrong about that, then why are the alarms being sounded by these professionals? Why are Steve Johnson, professional statement analyst, Peter Hyatt, professional statement analyst, trains law enforcement, profiler, criminal profiler, professional, Pat Brown, why are they all saying feeling what they're saying. So let's think about what Pat said. Let me just say thank you to Enjaz. Thank you so much, Enjaz, for gifting the channel membership. Thank you so much. I'm gonna talk about Katie. I just do want to say, I'm not ending the show. We're not done. I haven't even started with Katie. But I just do want to say thank you to our producers for allowing me to cover some of these more niche cases. Thank you so much to Enjaz, Sasha Angel, Mikey M, George Brown, and Pepper. Thank you to our channel members. Without you guys, I would not be able to cover these cases. If you are a channel member and you don't see your name on here, please let me know. If you would like your name to appear in all of my videos and on my live streams and you want to have a check mark next to your name, please feel free to become a channel member. And thank you so much for you. I want to just give super thanks and coffee gratitude to all of you guys. Thank you so much. So we got to talk about Katie Proudfoot. And this is all allegedly my opinion. So let's talk about Katie Proudfoot and her ever-changing version of Sebastian's disappearance. She's gone silent. She and Chris have gone silent. They're not talking anymore. They, they have a lawyer now doing it, suing for, I don't know what. I'm not even getting into that hot mess. But I bet their lawyer had some other advice to them. I would have. But this, her version of events has raised alarms with criminal profiler Pat Brown. So Pat Brown expressed, and if you haven't subscribed to her YouTube channel, she's great, has expressed being troubled by the inconsistencies in Katie's explanation of the night that Sebastian disappeared. Now, it's possible that Sebastian did run out the door that night with no shoes on and without any coat or jacket that we know of, because we're told he's dressed in a black shirt, black pants, no shoes, with a flashlight keychain with no key. It's possible that he ran out without his shoes on, but then why didn't the scent dogs pick anything up? Why can't law enforcement tell us where he left? Did he go out the front door? Why didn't anybody's doorbell cams pick him up? He didn't evaporate from the inside of his house. He wasn't beamed up onto the Starship Enterprise. So if Katie was on the phone with Chris sitting in the living room and Chris said that he told her to go to bed, this was around midnight for this 3-hour phone call. Remember what I told you, what I think could be. So criminal. Now, was she drinking and impaired and fell asleep and the thud was the front door and she doesn't want to admit she heard him go out the front door? Did he go out the door and was the door locked behind him? I don't know. But criminal profiler Pat Brown has pointed out that Katie has provided us with 3 different versions after returning home from the Texas Roadhouse restaurant, which is the last time that anyone independent of Katie Proudfoot saw Sebastian. Did he even make it home that night? In version 1, Sebastian disappeared. Katie claims that Sebastian went to his room, closed the bedroom door, and went to bed at 9 p.m. She said she woke up at 6 p.m. She went in to look in Sebastian's room to wake him up for school, but he was gone. So no thud at around 10 p.m. No thud was heard in version 1. She went to bed at 9 p.m. and she woke up at 6 a.m. and he was just gone. That's version 1. I would love, love, love to see the body cam footage of the police interviewing Katie Proudfoot. Then we got the second version. And I believe this is because the timeline had to be adjusted. This is just my opinion. Allegedly, don't come for me. So in the second version, Katie said she hears a thud at about 10 p.m. and she yells to Sebastian from the other room to go to bed. Okay, so in version 2, we do not have Sebastian answering her. We do not have Sebastian answering Katie. Version 1, there is no thud. Version 2, there's a thud, but he doesn't respond. She just tells him to go to bed. Then in her third version of this story, Katie claims that she heard the thud. Katie yelled to Sebastian from the other room what happened and if he's okay. So that's different than go to bed, which was version 2. That's different than nothing. The thud didn't even happen, which is version 1. In the third version, she claims she heard a thud. She yells to Sebastian from the other room what happened and if he's okay. So she's worried about him in version 3. And Sebastian responds to her and answers her in version 3. He answers her. He responds. I feel like Katie had to tighten up the timeline. What do you think? Are you watching closely? Let me check in with chat and see, where you guys are on this. And it's okay if we don't all agree. We're not going to all agree on every single case. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Veronica says he liked the school from what I remember. Yeah, that was his, Veronica's right. That was his support system, right? Those were that's who he could tell when somebody was hurting him. He told his teachers. He told his teachers. They were the ones that were calling CPS. But from Chris Proudfoot's point of view, in my opinion, he would not have seen his own behavior and what he did with Faith, which is taking her, custody of her, without having the court's permission to do so, taking a newly born, not brand new newborn, but newly born baby away from its mother. Instead of taking responsibility for that and being accountable for that, it's Sebastian's fault. He has to come live with you, Seth, because Katie and I aren't getting along because it's Sebastian's fault. Everything is Sebastian's fault, in my opinion, allegedly. No, don't worry, Pepper. Every once in a while that happens. Don't worry. We all make mistakes. If we were like all going to be perfect all the time and never make mistakes. So don't worry. Slim says, all my doors are normally locked. Every door would be unlocked. Yeah, if Sebastian was gone and you were his parent waiting, you would be there. You would be at the house. You would be searching if you weren't at the house. What you wouldn't do is leave the state. Yeah, Gary Adriana says, me too. Activity at 3. Yeah, yeah, and Jazz is like, please don't worry, Pepper. Yeah, so I mean, that's happened to me before too. I timed somebody out by mistake. I don't know what I was trying to do. I was trying to grab somebody else's comment and I grabbed the wrong person's. Kara says, yep, they know, and they do not know the BS. They know they are getting away with it because they got lucky. It happens all the time. Jewel says, my eyes don't lie, neither do my ears. And Bless said, Katie said the doors were locked. Right. So if the door was locked and it didn't lock automatically, how did he get out? Right? How did he get out? How did he get out if all the doors were locked? Bryan says, did they recover the video footage of them coming home from dinner that night? I don't know. If Sebastian was in the car, I'm sure there's cameras in the parking lot. I don't know. I mean, just a couple months ago, we just finally saw the video footage of Katie inside the restaurant. And she's taking pictures of him, which is okay. But in retrospect, it makes you wonder, again, best day ever. She's taking all these pictures of him. And then she's looking all around. Like when I'm like eating with somebody, I'm not doing like looking all around. Was she looking to see where the cameras were? Was she looking for someone in particular? Was somebody meeting them there? Queen says, me too. Leslie says, Seth even said he would move to be in the school district. Hey, Nadia. Glad to see you. Slim said, Katie, military, she knows how to defend. Yeah, this is not a shrinking violet. Katie was in the military. This whole thing of I can't be bothered to look for my son. I have to accompany my husband because Chris can't go to work by himself. Of course he can. He was by himself during the whole month of February leading up to the 26th when Sebastian was reported missing. And law enforcement has the 26th on their date. So maybe this date was just, a goof, because really he would have gone missing on the 25th. But, they looked at the lights video too, and they have information that we don't have. What they don't have and what they need, in my opinion, is Sebastian to make their case. Queen says she would never leave the house. Cara said, no, I'd be sitting there staring out the window. I would too. Jody would never leave. Maria says, in my opinion, Seth is innocent. I think Katie Proudfoot and Chris Proudfoot are guilty, in my opinion. Kim said Seth was going to testify. Oh, Sebastian was going to testify in the case with Nina in the 2 weeks after he went missing. I didn't hear that. That's new. I haven't heard that before. If you have a source on that, Kim, please let me know. I would like to know, where you heard that. I haven't heard that before, that he was going to actually testify, but very interesting. Yeah, I would be searching too. Yeah, please put allegedly or your opinion. I mean, just we're all just sharing our opinions here. So I'm not saying anybody did anything to anybody. I just am saying I believe my own eyes and ears. I believe my own gut, instinct. And I think something nefarious happened. And the reason I think this is because there was no dog scent. No dogs picked up his scent that we know of, that we've been told of, that law enforcement. We were told by Chris Proudfoot that one scent dog picked up one scent. I believe my eyes and ears because I see 3 different versions of what happened that night. And what happened that night would be so crucial to most people. What happened that night would be so crucial. Bless said, I would be searching. I would be laying in my bed, in my son's bed, praying for his return. I would be searching day and night. Yeah, no searches that we've seen. Not one time could they be bothered to go to the prayer vigil to say thank you, even to the people who were out there donating their time. Wouldn't you be grateful? Unless you didn't want them being looked for. Who was running off all these searchers too? Why did the United Cajun Navy not feel welcomed and felt like they had to leave? Lady Rosa says, but Katie Proudfoot was on the sofa. It was next to the front door as she was on the phone reading a chapter and sleeping, so she didn't stop him from walking out the door barefoot. Red flag, no scent there. And again, all the comments are just opinions by all of us. We're just all sharing our feelings and opinions on this case. But if you have been frustrated and just feel like you're just tired of being gaslit and being told that what you're seeing with your own eyes and ears isn't the truth, then you are in the right place. If you, want your voice to be heard, even if it doesn't, I'm so tired of the gaslighting in this case, of being told what I'm seeing with my own eyes cannot be true. My own gut instinct, all the red flags it's not just me, all of us are seeing. I think a lot of us are tired of being told this isn't true. And the people that are like, oh, but Seth isn't perfect. Yeah, I'm not. I've never said Seth was perfect. When Seth has done things, I have, called them out. But he's the one with the most rock solid alibi. He's not the one that provided Sebastian with the best day ever. And if I'm wrong, then, that's fine. I'm wrong. 6 Cents a Millie says, Brandy and Tyler Monkey's parents are an example of to compare of how parents who cherish their children behave. Exactly. Most parents get on camera to advocate for their missing child. In Sebastian's case, it took him 8 days. And then we got this kind of weird interview and we're all looking at the body language going, I don't know, this doesn't feel right. Jody says people search more for their missing pets than they did for their child. Yeah. One time, this is such a good comment. One time I lived, this was a while ago. I was living in a wooded area, in a rural area, and I had a dog. It was a little Pekingese. She's passed on now, but I had a little Pekingese, and she disappeared. I printed up posters. I put them everywhere for like 2 days. I searched, I drove around, I looked for her, and I did get her back. She fell asleep and she had gotten lost in the woods, and she fell asleep in one of the in a driveway that was like about a mile from our house, and he had seen my posters and called me, and he had her. So yeah, I agree, Jody. Well said. I just want to say thank you so much to Six Sense Amelia for the gifted 5. Wow, 5 reporter room memberships. You guys, this is so nice. If you have just gotten a free membership from NJAS or Amelia, please let me know who you are, and your name will appear in all of my upcoming videos. Leslie says, keeping it real says, Katie Proudfoot put out food and a blanket while they left. What the heck? She needed to stay, in my opinion. I didn't know about the food and the blanket, but would you, if you, wow. And Lori saying Chris never even went back to work, did he? I think he did. He did go back to work. He was working on the St. Jude's Hospital construction site. I think he did go back. Yeah, creepy. Nadia says, in my opinion, an accident happened in the house, and I'm wondering if they didn't hide him in the house. Hey, Veronica. And Veronica's a new channel member too. Welcome. I got a notification. For some reason, your brand new channel membership is showing up in a video that's coming out tomorrow. And the only reason I went there is I forgot to drop and pin a comment in there. So I went in there to pin a comment, and I saw that you had become a channel member. So I quick ran and added you to the to our members. Mama Bear says Chris said that Chris should have had that conversation with him and Katie, but the downside is that conversation never happened on web. Please refer to my clip on my page. Why was that a downside? Thank you for that, Mama Bear. Thank you. Nadia says, what were the scratches on Chris's arms? Well, he says they were from the dogs. Veronica said, no, she would not have left the house. Queen says, my beloved father was born in 1929, was the real deal. We don't have very many wholesome parents anymore. Well, I think we do. I mean, I'm, you know, you're, I'm, there's no, nobody like your dad. Let me just like not minimize. I don't want to minimize that. So sounds like he passed too. I'm so sorry. Cindy said, puts food and blanket out. It's a human. It's your missing son. That's right. It's like bang your head right here. Somebody's missing, and your response is, I'm going to put food and a blanket out and accompany my husband to work. I mean, that's why Nancy Grace asked it. So we're not all crazy, guys, for having the feeling the way that we do. Yeah, please give this a thumbs up. Let YouTube know it's a G-rated show. It is. Nadia says, Chris said that Sebastian will never be found. Why does, yeah. He like made it almost sound like it was going to be like a riddle for the ages for law enforcement. Because, again, what do narcissists like to do? Feel superior to other people, right? They can't help it. Jody Hildebrandt and Ruby, when Ruby got it, remember when those two got, Ruby's the one that had all of the, had a family channel, and, got arrested for how she was treating her kids. And I told you I thought that she was a narcissistic person. When she talked about Jody, she was bragging because Jody was too big and couldn't get her hands behind her back, but Ruby was smaller, so she could get her hands cuffed behind her back or wherever she was getting them cuffed. Even while she's being arrested and telling the story of being arrested, she has to feel superior to someone. So she can't feel superior to the people outside of jail. So she's going to feel superior to Jody because Jody was bigger than her, even while she's in jail. Even while she's in jail. That's what's on her brain, because that's how narcissistic people think. We saw the interview of prophets. And Justice, that was an odd statement to make. It was. Slim says, in my church, our deacons and elders and congregation would volunteer to guard us in that situation. Yes. I think there would have been lots of people that would have helped if Katie said, I don't want to leave my house, but I feel scared to stay here. I think there would have been numerous people who would have helped her out. I mean, she could have had Seth come and stayed with her, but if that felt too awkward and weird, she could have had the Bowersox. If that didn't feel comfortable, she could, I'm sure, she must have had, I bet you there were volunteers that would have agreed to sit outside if she was worried. And Nadia says to Enjas, yeah, why would he say that? A lot of people heard him say it. I did. I don't remember on what show, but he said it. Yeah, I heard it too. Nina commented about them having a camera indoors, but no proof they did have one. Interesting. Cindy says, I don't like either one of these jerks. And what was about the motorcycle? Right. Well, everybody's out searching for Sebastian. What are Chris and Katie caught on photograph doing? Motorcycle shopping. So she felt safe to leave the house to go motorcycle shopping. She felt comfortable, even though law enforcement told her to stay there. She could accompany him to work, but she couldn't go search. Just like make it all make sense. And it just doesn't make sense. And Veronica's right. Katie worked for Brinks. She could have installed her own alarm system. She was in the Navy, and allegedly, I don't know if this is true, but she did some training in MMA. Yeah, she was in the military. But even if she felt like worried about that, she still could have, let me move myself out of the way so I keep, she could have definitely had somebody come and stay with her. She did not have to accompany Chris. That was a choice she made. And so my question is, why did she make that choice? Why that choice? Why that choice? Why not help search? And who's running off United Cajun Navy and the searchers that are trying to help? Thank you so much to all of our mods for all your great work today. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you to our channel members and our subscribers too. Linda D says, when you have martial arts training, also trained in the service, I don't buy that Katie Proudfoot was afraid. In my opinion, she knows, and I hope the truth is found for Sebastian. Mom Bear said it was premeditated, and all day Sunday family fun day was to be documented to throw off law enforcement. Would have loved Sebastian, FaceTime bragging, breakfast, BJ's, snacks, the arcade, Texas Roadhouse restaurant, in my opinion. Veronica says Sheriff Craddock came out in mid-December and said it was now a criminal case. Yeah, and Jennifer Coffenduffer said she thought it became a criminal case in April, right? Lady says Katie Proudfoot also changed the thud to just a noise he was playing in his room. He's 15, could be doing something in there, as most or all 15-year-old boys do. It's normal as to why she did not check on him. Right. The problem is that we've got all these different versions of the night it happened. The first version, we don't even have the thud. He went to bed at 9. She was on the phone with Chris Proudfoot for 3 hours. No mention of a thud. And then we get the second version. And no, I'm not taking issue with your comment at all. Please don't. This is just me. This is just me. But then we got this version 2 where she hears a thud, but just yells at him to go to bed. And then we have the second version. Then we have the third version where she hears a thud. Now she's worried about him in the third version, and he answers her. Second version, he doesn't answer her. And Steve Johnson, who's a statement analyst, said he thought the thud was concerning, that the 10 p.m., that it had something to do with whatever went on that night. Chris and Katie have a lawyer, so they stay silent. Yep. And that's their right. No video surveillance, right? Thank you, Queen. You're really sweet. Brother Mike said, what had Katie Proudfoot's story change? Yeah, why change it? I think, this is just my opinion, I think that timeline had to be tightened up. She needed something at 10 p.m. because 3 hours is enough time for somebody to get. It's like 2 hours and 10 minutes, 2 hours and 15 minutes from Memphis to Hendersonville. That's where Chris Proudfoot was working. I think, in my opinion, allegedly, the timeline needed to be tightened up, which is why we have this 10 p.m. The scent dog should have picked up on his scent more because he didn't have shoes on. Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you so much, Just Dawn. Nadia says, in my opinion, Chris and Katie know what happened. Cindy says, yeah, unless they were trying desperately to unload that poor kid on any way that they could. I don't know. But I just feel like the date was significant. The date was significant. CJK says, I do think the Proudfoot should go speak with their law enforcement again and with their attorney, ask for an update, and be willing to answer questions again. And Cindy says, yeah, they were trying desperately to unload that poor kid. Yeah, because it was his fault. Everything was Sebastian's fault, right? That's why Chris Proudfoot said they needed to have Sebastian come live with Seth because he and Katie were having marriage trouble. So it must be Sebastian's fault. Chris can't get custody of Faith, not because he did anything bad, not because he has control issues, not because he, has parenting issues in the way that he disciplined, according to Nina Gomez, disciplined her children, not because of any of those problems. It had to be Sebastian's fault, right? Sebastian's fault. Thank you so much, Enjaz, for the $10 super sticker. I really appreciate it. Thank you. That is very generous of you. Yeah, it had to be Sebastian's fault. I think everything was Sebastian's fault. I really do. No accountability. And when we've seen this over and over and over. From narcissistic people. Not most narcissists don't hurt anybody, but we've seen this in case after case after case after case. Look at Megan Boswell. Sheesh. And just lying and changing that story. Every time law enforcement would catch her in one lie, she would immediately change the story and it would be another lie. Marlena says, I think she added the thud in case he's found like a thud, like a wound. There's an excuse for it. Yeah, could be. Leslie says, I believe they have a script and that Katie wasn't following it until Chris told her to get. Yeah, remember the coughing? We all saw the coughing that he did. And we were all like, Chris Proudfoot was coughing. And a lot of people thought, red flag, red flag. And then we were shouted down by people. Oh, no, don't believe your own eyes and ears. I think, Lady Rosa said, Chris Proudfoot said they told law enforcement everything. And if everyone knew what Sebastian did, they wouldn't look for him either. So in my opinion, JT, what did Chris Proudfoot, Katie Proudfoot accuse him of? Maybe talking about Sebastian told his teacher. Yeah, that was his big crime, right? That was his big crime. He dared to, yeah, Just John agrees with you, Marlena. His big crime was that he told his teachers how he was being disciplined by Chris Proudfoot. Oh, that's so funny, Veronica. Common sense. Hello. Yes. Mama Bear says, after nearly 2 years of trying to get Sebastian out of Chris's house, they believe they failed. Why Sebastian refused when they were in their kitchen? That's why Chris told Seth he should have told them he cleared it up. Thank you for sharing that. CJK says, what cell phone ping that might morning in their neighborhood and adjacent streets? Yeah, and he didn't take a cell phone. He didn't take his shoes. That tells me that if he did leave the house, it may not have been voluntary. Or he wasn't really planning. Maybe he went out the door for a second and did the door get locked behind him? I'll teach him a lesson. I mean, I don't know. I just think it's, really, really concerning. A lot of red flags. Jackie says, and reporter room, why didn't she choose those photos to give to law enforcement instead of the old ones? Yeah. I don't know. We saw that in the Madeleine McCann case, right, too, where they gave photographs that were older. They weren't recent photographs. And maybe they were just trying to pick the cutest one, but they had like a one that they had taken with Maddie by the pool. Why not share that one? Nadia says Katie was looking everywhere in the restaurant. Yeah, that was weird, right? If you have not seen that video, watch the most recent post. Who has that video? Laura Lodge has it on their most recent coverage. And she is like sitting in her booth. When she's not taking pictures, she is just like, I mean, I don't know. Do you sit in when you're like having a meal with somebody? Are you looking all around? Unless you were expecting someone else to come. Maybe someone was supposed to come and stood them up. I don't know. But in light of everything that happened, in retrospect, when we look back, it's weird. Queen says there was a combo on the lock, so maybe he would be able to come back inside because he knew the combo. Yep. CJK says, does anyone here know about the deep holes of some type that are close by? The deep holes? Can you clarify that? I'm not really sure what you're asking me. This is our other head mod. This is Sixth Sense Amelia. She said, good to see you all, reporter room community. Oh yeah, please give this a thumbs up. Let them know that this is a wholesome video. Let me move myself up here just so I'm like not constantly make myself skinnier so I don't block Sebastian. Holly says, lies and manipulation going from Chris Proudfoot and Katie Proudfoot, in my opinion. Yeah. Common sense says, I would never leave my home if my child went missing. I want to be the first one to hold him in my arms and give him a big kiss. Yeah. And let me ask you guys this. Would you go out and search? Would you have gone out and searched? Lady Rose says, Katie Proudfoot was watching in the Texas Roadhouse restaurant, was watching for someone watching her phone for the go sign. She thinks, this is her opinion, to meet someone. I don't know. Or just making sure that she was on camera. It could have just been that. Again, best day ever. And then he goes missing. Cindy said, I would have gone out of my mind with her worry. Most definitely stayed put. Her excuses are bunk. Hi, Lori. CJK said, if there was an accident, then I don't understand why you wouldn't call 911. Yeah, I don't get it either. Nadia says, if the dogs weren't allowed in the house, then, and no luminol done. Well, the dogs were put away. Now, here's the other thing, like that happened that night that didn't normally happen. Normally, the dogs slept with Katie. But on that night, they were put away in their little, I don't know if they were in like a little cage or a kennel, what they were put away in, but they were put away so they were gated off from the rest of the house. Normally, they slept with Katie. So why on that night of all nights were they gated off? Why have it be the 26th of February? Why the anniversary of the divorce date? Why that night of all nights? Why the flashlight in the car starting up? And Chris Proudfoot tells us, don't pay attention to that. If this was your little one, this was your teenager, if this was your missing child, you would want everything to be looked at. Yeah, get it under a different filter. Maybe somebody who's edits all the time can get a better filter on it. I would want everybody to try. Mom Bear says, I believe they rendered Sebastian. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, the Uvalde group pulled out also. And that was another thing that Jennifer talked about today. She said that she thought that maybe it was, that they were told to pull out because law enforcement told them it was a criminal investigation now. There's just so many things. So many things. I don't know, you guys. It's really concerning. Cindy says, if old Chris Proudfoot really cared about that child, he would have taken the time off work to help find him. Right? Welcome. Thank you. Lori says, thank you to you, Amelia, for the membership. Donna says, in my opinion, Katie will feel guilty and confess. I don't know. I remember when Seth Rogers appeared on Peter Hyatt's show. Peter Hyatt's a statement analyst. And, Peter Hyatt said to Katie, unburden yourself. I don't think so. And it could just be that he went out because of something that was said. Something awful that was said. I can't say with 100% certainty because we don't have Sebastian. That's why law enforcement can't say with 100% certainty that this is what's happened, because nobody knows exactly what's happened. But I believe my own gut feeling about this, which is that we have 3 different versions according to criminal profiler Pat Brown's analysis. I trust her analysis. We have statement analyst Steve Johnson, statement analyst Peter Hyatt, statement analyst Stephen Johnson did a good statement analysis on Chris McDonough's channel. Peter Hyatt did it on his own channel. Both were really well done. They were done independently of the other one. I trust their analysis. Law enforcement, according to Jennifer Coffindeffer, who's former FBI, she says that she thinks this was a criminal case. It was made a criminal case back in April. I trust her analysis. I would think that if anybody would know, it would be her. CJK said all those activities in one day when it's not a birthday or a holiday or a spring break. I wondered why they disposed. And that's where Chris Proudfoot was like on the video with Web Sleuths Live, and Chloe asked him about the best day ever, and he just went off the rails. He just went off the rails. Common sense is Katie can't go search for her son. She can't go to a vigil to thank the ones who are searching, but she can make it to court yeah. Well, I don't know what happened with that, so I don't want to get involved in that because I don't want to end up in court myself. I'm sure you guys can understand that. I don't want to end up in court myself. So I don't know what happened with that. So I'm not going to touch that one. But I just know what my feeling is, what my gut says. And I just see red flags everywhere. Everywhere. I just see lots and lots of red flags. Thank you so much. Welcome, Rhinestone Cowgirl. Glad you're here. Okay. Well, I don't know. I'm really curious. If you're watching this on the replay, drop me a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. If you haven't subscribed to Reporter Room, please do. Tomorrow, oh, you guys, tomorrow we are going to be going. Netflix is coming out tomorrow, February the 17th, with an updated Netflix series on the Gabby Petito Bryan laundry case. And we're going to find out some new stuff that we didn't know. For those of you that have been with this channel for a long time, you know that was one of the first things I covered. I covered Summer Wells, Gabby Petito, Bryan Laundrie, Kylan Schulte, and Crystal Turner, where I believe were the 3 main first cases that I just really deep dived into. And so for those of you that are going to be following that Netflix, I'm going to be doing a live stream after we all have a chance to watch it. So I'm going to go live at 6 p.m. tomorrow Eastern time. Please join me. We're going to talk about that case. And then at 7:30, I'm going live on the Bryan Kohberger case. This is really important. This is coming up. This trial is coming up. There's all kinds of breaking news. And I just really do think it's important for everybody to be up to date on this. That trial is going to be here before we know it. I want to talk more about the Franks hearing. Will the judge grant a Franks hearing? I'm going to tell you what I think, my opinion. If the judge hasn't ruled by tomorrow, we might have a ruling. And remember that 5.5, 6.5 hours of hearings we were not allowed to hear that Ann Taylor kept characterizing as super secret? Well, the judge decided to put the transcripts of the hearing out there into the public and gave the prosecution and defense team 2 weeks to redact what they wanted out of that. So we are probably going to have those by the time I go live on that case tomorrow as well. Sometime this week, whenever that comes out, even if I've done Bryan Kohberger already once, I'll be coming live again on that. So thank you again to our producers. Really, really appreciate you guys. Thank you to our channel members. If you would like your name to appear just like this, just hit the join button, which is next to the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and that notification bell, because we're going to be covering all 3 episodes of the Gabby Petito Netflix series. So I'm going to be covering that at length. And also, thank you so much. This is for last week's super thanks and coffee gratitude. Really, really appreciate all of you guys so much. Thank you very, very much. And I'll be updating this as well. All right, guys. Well, I think I'm going to leave it there. I've gotten myself probably into enough trouble with this case. But I do want to hear your input. If you're watching this on the replay, please drop me a comment in the comment section below. What do you think happened? Is your gut telling you there's red flags? Do you think that understanding why and who had a motive in this case and who didn't, whether you like certain parents or don't like certain parents, whether, and we shouldn't be on one team or the other team. I really don't think we should be. I think we should be on Sebastian's team, and that's what I'm here for. I am here for Sebastian, and I really do feel like we need to know what happened to him. Somebody knows what happened. He didn't just disappear from inside his own house. So, I'm just tired of being gaslit. I just really, really am. Mike says Chris Proudfoot wasn't there, but he takes over the story. Yeah, he wasn't there, but he is always the one to say what happened. He always is the one to tell you what happened, even though he wasn't even there. It's crazy. Leslie agrees with you. Dr. Dot says, I'll never forget when Katie Proudfoot said he was already questioned, and then Chris Proudfoot coughs and blinks rapidly. Yeah. And then he lied about taking a polygraph, told Nancy Grace he was going to show up to do a polygraph, and then didn't do it. Why not? Why didn't he want to take a polygraph? Then he said that law enforcement didn't want him to take a polygraph. If you believe that law enforcement told Chris Proudfoot that they didn't want him to take a polygraph, in light of the CPS reports, which we know about now, and in light of everything that Nina Gomez has told us about Chris Proudfoot, and they would have had access to all of those court records. If you really think that law enforcement didn't want Chris Proudfoot to take a polygraph, tell me why in the comment section below, because I don't think that's true. High Eyes 7 says, I noticed in one of their interviews, Chris also bumped Katie when she was talking. Wow. The coughing. Mike is right. The coughing. And Amelia says, Michael Turney reported missing his stepdaughter, Alyssa Turney, as a runaway to an acquaintance in the local police, same as what Chris did. Yeah, here's the other question. Why was he the one calling law enforcement? Who would have had the best information to give law enforcement in regards to Sebastian going missing? The parent that was living in the house with him for the whole month of February leading up to that date, or Chris Proudfoot, who says he was in Memphis at work for the whole month leading up to that date? Who had the better information? Chris Proudfoot did. No, Katie did. Why didn't she call? Why was he the one that was telling Seth? It's really wild. Kara says, did she even have a meal at the restaurant? Yeah, I mean, she was looking around. I didn't see her eating, but I didn't see the whole video. I just saw a snippet of it. Hi, I says, have you seen the interview replayed recently on TV? Ex-coworker, definitely a red flag. I don't know. I haven't seen that, no. Holly says, oh, yes, I would have gone out to search on a horse with dogs. They would have to arrest me to keep me away. Thank you. Yes, I agree. I'm there with you, Holly. Nothing would have kept me away from that. Yeah, Brother Mike says not calling 911 is a red flag. Yeah, why not call 911? But but it should have been the parent that was there making that phone call. It's just, it's crazy. I just feel like we're getting gaslit here, guys. All right, well, I'm going to do another video on this case. I am watching for an update from the Cumberland County to let us know about, because this is just 2.5 hours. Some people also talked about Summer Wells. So I will definitely, I've been searching every day for updates. There hasn't been an update for 4 days, but hopefully we'll find out who those remains belong to. And I'll bring you that as soon as I have it. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I really appreciate your coming by to spend a little bit of time with me. And I will see you tomorrow for the Gabby Petito and Bryan Laundrie cases. I'm sorry, Gabby Petito, Bryan Laundrie. And then we're going to do Bryan Kohberger, Idaho 4 at right after that at 7:30. So 6 p.m. Eastern time. See you tomorrow. And thank you so much for joining me today.